I ran a project once in Buckinghamshire when I was a commissioner there, and I did it. We did a project. I hired a guy called Tony D'Agostino, wonderful guy. He ran Coca for a while, the cocaine charity, and he did a project for us for homeless people, and he gave them cameras. So we went to like a local, those shops that you go and you can pawn all your stuff. You can get rid of your cameras and your gold and all the rest of it. And they give you money. Yeah. And so Tony said, we asked him to do this project to find out what the homeless experience was in Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire. And he said he was going to give cameras. We gave him a little budget, and he's going to get some video cameras for people, because we were hearing tales of homeless people were getting their sleeping bags and their clothes and things that they had in bags taken off them and thrown away, and by the police, because they were sleeping in places that was too visible, and they were sleeping outside of Waitrose, and we had reports of staff from Waitrose throwing cold water on the homeless in the morning to get rid of them. And yet when these homeless people tried to sleep in the car parks and in other abandoned buildings, there was security that would move them on. And so we were just getting all these odd reports. And so we got Tony to do a bit of work for us. And we called it, one of the homeless people said, "I just want to get off the concrete." That was his words. And so we called the project Off the Concrete. And Tony gave them cameras. And everyone said they're just going to nick the cameras, but they didn't, and what we found is a very long-winded way of saying something simple. What we found was that Tony gave them the option to be anonymous, to film and to not be, to be a fly on the wall. And they said, no, we want to be heard. We want to be heard and we want to be seen. And so the content that they filmed and the work that they did, he gave them credit for. And we actually got into a lot of trouble, because within the council they didn't want to acknowledge that the problem was as big as we were saying it was. And even though I worked for the council, I left and Tony carried it on, and he got into real discussion with them. He said it was really hard for him, because he was telling them that they had a problem and showing them the problem, and they were in denial about it, and it reminded me of a story that, what's his name? The ABCD guy.
Cormac Russell.
Cormac Russell told a story once about Truth and Story, two sisters called Truth and Story, and they wanted to know who was the most beautiful. And so Truth said, "I'll go first," and she went into the town. She walked through the town, regally, and everyone just ran from her. And so she got to the end of the town, and she thought, they can't see me properly. So she took off some of her clothes, and she walked back. In fact, she walked back naked through the town. This time, even the cats and dogs ran away from her, and she was bereft. And then her sister, Story, came along and put her cape around her. And the moral of the story that Cormac brought out from that was, people hate the truth. They really hate the naked truth. But they love the truth wrapped up in a story. And so, it reminded me, the council hated the truth. They really hated the naked truth about their homeless situation. But we somehow, we started to find ways to tell the truth within a story. And so there was a mum called Stacey within Aylesbury. She set up what she called an engagement cafe for the homeless, where she gave them food and let them play pool and spoke to them. And the homeless people used to turn up early, to tidy up the mess that was left by the previous people. It was like a community centre that she managed to rent. And then they would stay behind afterwards to make sure it was in a good state. And when she ran the engagement cafe, crime stopped in the town, because these were the people that were, doing the nuisance and the begging and the, stealing and some of that. Not completely, but the majority. And so for 2 hours on a Monday afternoon, I think it was, crime in Aylesbury just stopped. And so we were able to put out a story to the police about these, they got nothing. And, and some of them, when you get to know them, they're volunteering. They're working at, Oxfam or Mind and so you look at, you can get the story of their situation out, and then somehow it conveys a wider truth. And eventually we ended up sitting down with the police and, having real conversations about, how do we help people in our town? Aylesbury is a rich town in a rich part of the country. Why are we paying, thousands of pounds for security to patrol the car parks and clear them? And we can't find a few quid for the homeless people to have somewhere decent to sleep.